Alright guys, so here we have the suspension. As you may remember, there is a missing bolt here. There's also, I believe, one that was broken off over here. See, that's broken off there. Now unfortunately, I was attempting to work on this thing a little bit off camera. I got some bolts to free up, like the ones in the wheels, but I believe there's a couple that are gonna break off. And I believe one that already broke off. That was this one here broke off. I think one of these here is about to break off, so I'm gonna try to spray it so it doesn't fully break. I'm gonna try to start taking this thing apart a little bit, and I'll show you how it goes. I think this one here was gonna come loose and this one was gonna break. And then I gotta try to take some of these push nuts off, because that holds there's push nuts here that hold the springs in place, and that hold that piece there on. Once I get these springs off, it should they're in here. Should be a lot less stress on the whole thing. But anyway, I'll get this on the tripod and I'll start trying to pull some stuff apart. Well, it was not easy, but I did obviously get this rear axle here out. Got one of the wheels off of it. They're just totally falling apart. The rubber coating that is all over the floor. This wheel was able to be removed and this piece of plastic came loose here, but the second piece here and the other wheel is still stuck to the shaft, so I'm gonna play around with that, I guess. As probably saw in the time lapse, bolt broke here, and the bolt broke on the other side of here, which is actually what I exactly was hoping would not happen, because it's gonna be really fun to try to get that out of there now. But anyway, I think the only thing really holding this entire part of the suspension in place right now is the shock that's holding it to this piece, and the push nuts with the spring that are sitting in there. So I gotta take the push nuts off the thing on either side of this. There's some down here. It's hard to see. There we go. That has to come out of there. And then this piece can also probably be removed if I take the push nut off of there. So I'll start seeing how badly this shock is held in here. How tight it is, I mean, because that bolt doesn't look the greatest. Hopefully that'll unthread without breaking like everything else broke. But, all right. So here, as you can see, I have a couple pieces of suspension and obviously a clutch for a mini bike there. But this has been a lot of work. I have the shafts removed on these pieces, and the biggest piece of these shafts is smaller than a penny because I had to drill the entire shaft out of these because they would not press out. And I even tried to press while, like, after drilling a ways, and they still wouldn't press out. Can't believe how tight these were in here. I've never had them that bad. So 2 down, these 2 small ones are done. I have 2 big ones and another small one that need to get drilled out. And I can't rotate these easily in the lathe because I ended up using a lathe to drill these out. So I'm picked up a vise and we'll be continuing work on that. I'll include a couple pictures of that process, but I didn't record that stuff because it's taking a lot of time and a lot of precise maneuvering to not drill it off center, because some of these have the broken off bolts, which makes it real fun to start the drill in. So I just hung up a couple things. Got some different suspension parts here all hung up after being sandblasted. I primed them all. I just got a couple more pieces to go. And once this primer's dry and all the other pieces are primed, I'll hang them up like this again and paint them with the black paint.
Alright, so here's what we're looking at. It's all reassembled, obviously. We had some issues with the slides as usual. So these slides that you get off of Dennis Kirk, usually where I got mine, they say guaranteed fit, but they fit multiple models and they don't actually fit. So what you have to do is either get at them with an angle grinder in the groove that's right here, or you have to run them on a table saw to make the groove wide enough, and then you got to pound them on the hammer. I mean, you usually have to pound them on the hammer anyway. I just wet the whole bottom of the rail down with oil to help them slide on. And of course, not only do they not fit quite right sliding on, but they also, the holes don't line up with top. That always seems to happen with these slides. It happened with these ones and the ones I did before on the other suspension I rebuilt. And I have one more suspension I'm probably going to rebuild at some point. I might try to reuse those slides though, because they're not in bad shape. But anyway, I'm going to have to drill through here to put a new hole for the screw. This is what I'm going to be using, a wave screw. I usually use a countersunk head, and then I'll use a bigger bit to make the hole on this side a little bigger to countersink it in. And here I have plastic pieces for here. I got some rivets that I need to go in there, and then these little washers will be sliding into this space here to hold them in place. And then over here I have this piece of plastic I made up. I'm just gonna rivet this on here, and then reinstall the rear axle. Now, of course, also there was an issue from Dennis Kirk with these, because the axle does not fit in that bushing. So I'm gonna have to pop this bushing out, and then the axle does not fit in the bearing in here. So I have to use a different bushing for that to work. So luckily I have the right size bushing. I got them off eBay. I don't remember what the size is, sorry. You'd have to measure your shaft and then order accordingly. But I believe it's a pretty standard bushing. Like when I bought the bushings when I was working on my Artie Cat, and they turned out to be the wrong size. I believe this is probably similar to the size of the Artie Cat. I really don't remember, but I had to reuse the original ones on that because they didn't, the new ones I got didn't fit. I believe this is the size for, yeah, this is the size that fits on the shaft here. So fits nice and tight, nice and snug, I mean. So I'm gonna try to get those replaced in there, and then I can get this axle put through here, which is pretty simple to do. You just basically put this ovular shape, it fits in there, and then it kind of holds to be your adjuster. And then I need to buy some bolts that are going to go in here, because mine's all snapped apart. So I need a bolt with a nut that's going to fit against here and push this back to adjust my track tension. So I'll get all that done, and then I'll show you the finished suspension. Alright, so everything I said has now been completed. Got new bolts for here. Got this rack axle set up with the wheels and adjuster and tensioner pieces here, plastic. And then got this connected on with rivets. Had to get longer rivets than I was previously using so they actually fit. Got these riveted on. And I got this drilled with the screw or bolt countersunk in there. I had to take this off here, push it off and put it back on to get these on, because the rivet gun wouldn't fit on the bottom side here. And oh yeah, and I put the rubber blocks back on as well. I didn't show that, but this is basically just have to put the spring back in there after I put this piece back in place. So now the suspension is ready to put into the snowmobile, so I'm gonna go try to do that real quick. Alright,
Alright guys, that's the end of this video for the suspension rebuild. The next video should include putting stuff back together, and if you enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one.